Hello and welcome to the Claret Blue podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, and today I'm joined by Neil Dunworth from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast in rainy Ireland. I wish we had a bit of that rain here, Neil. It's getting a little bit cooler, but this is your weekly Claret Blue weather update. Still on.
Yeah, I'm in the process of building an ark here and trying to get two of every animal onto it, because if what fell here last night falls in the UK, well then, yeah, we're toast, put it that way. It's so flooded here today. Well, yeah, but like it's only just surface flooding, like it's nothing major. But it's there's so much rainfall last night and continues to fall this morning that it's a bit out of character for what we had the 5 days previous, because we were like you guys, we were up in the high 20s to, for 5 days in a row, and then the thunderstorms have broken it. So rain is on its way, guys. It's on its way.
Good. Well, let's crack on with this episode before Neil gets washed away. A lot of these questions have come from the mailbag, and most of them don't have a name with them. So if you are contributing to the mailbag, if you want to leave a name, please do. It makes this easier. However, I or you, Neil, are just going to make them up. So the first one is from Barry. And Barry says, are some fans endangering themselves into believing that we will win the Europa League, a bit like we did in the Conference League season? Obviously, I'd absolutely love it to happen, but all the evidence points to us not winning it, in my opinion. We don't know, so there's evidence maybe that we won't win it, and there's evidence that we will. So let's kind of forget the hypothetical of we could fall on either side of that coin. I do think Barry, or whoever this was, is along the right lines. That I've said similar before, that there does seem to feel that there is a little bit of we have to just go and win the Europa League this year, otherwise this season will be a failure. And that's kind of lofty expectations to put on yourself straight away. Now, internally, the club, absolutely aim high. It'd be kind of perceived to be tin pot, I suppose, to go, let's just try and finish mid-table and see how we do. Obviously we're going to be better than that. But there does seem to be a kind of maybe external pressure from the fan base that it's Europa League or bust. And I think there could, and there absolutely would be, a lot of like very, very devastated fans out there if it doesn't happen. Yeah,
we're 2.5 years into Unai Emery's tenure, and already people are saying it's going to be a fail. Well, for the last year and a half, I think after a year of Unai Emery's tenure, people were saying we need to win a cup, or else, will his tenure be a failure? That's been a question. I've never really bought into it. Football is about enjoyment. Yes, it's about winning as well at the same time. I want us to win a cup. I want to preface what I'm going to say next with that. But you have to take everything that comes out of Unai Emery's mouth with the full kind of intent and context that it is supposed to be taken. And he's always, since he's been here, said the league is the priority. The league is the priority. Now, saying that, because you can hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time. The beautiful thing about the Europa League, just like with Spurs last year, and I'm not saying that Villa are going to finish 17th, but the beautiful thing is that if you do meet a hiccup in the league, like we did in the season just gone, and we really put ourselves under the gun to try and really bounce back, which we did towards the end. Should have got Champions League football, didn't, because of a capitulation the last day of the season. But what happens now is that we have the opportunity to shift our goalposts mid-season.
Yeah.
Because the way that it's going to be seeded and drawn, we should be able to navigate the group stage pretty handily, I would imagine. That gives us up until January, and then at January, then we can refocus our targets. Let's say we're second in the league, a point off top, and we've got the Europa League coming, and we're 8 points off fifth place. Or 8 points off sixth place. England have it sewn up again that fifth place is going to get your Champions League again, and we're 15 points off sixth place. We would be mad not to put all our eggs into the league bucket, as opposed to the Europa League bucket, and see how far we get in the Europa League. I also want to bring into the equation something else as well here that teams are going to think about. We've just seen the Club World Cup culminate and finish today. Chelsea have won 90 to 120 odd million. I don't know exactly, for winning that. Even participation in that gets you 40, 50, 60 million. The criteria of getting into that now will become something that will be spoken about over time. I'm warning everybody now, because it's if you finish in if you win, so it's going to be the teams that win their leagues and the top 5 leagues in Europe, I think it is, plus another 7 teams or 8 teams then based on coefficient. So teams are going to want to get into Europe regardless and progress within Europe to get their coefficient up to get in here, because it's free money.
Yeah.
And so to answer the initial question on this three-pronged attack that I went down, I think we're going to start off with the league. That's always going to be first and foremost at the start of the season, Unai Emery's focus. And then there will be a shift as in how we're doing in the league and how we're doing in the Europa League in January. So, setting out stalls at the start of the season, you ask Unai Emery, he's going to say, I want to win all the cups and I want to win the league. And it's always going to be that way. But your focus will shift and change as the season goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Next up from Sam, because I said I was going to make some up. Now the one that you're going to think they're all made up, some are real. If I pause to think, that's the ones I'm making up. This one is from Sam. Love the mailbag idea. As a long-time listener who isn't on social media much, it's great to have a way to engage with the show. With Asensio not re-signing and money for wages being tight, do you think Tielemans might play as the number 10 more this season to get both Kamara and Onana on the pitch together? It'll potentially get our best 11 players on the pitch and improve our defensive solidity. Is there a downside tactically? Now, I do think Tielemans is better deeper rather than at the 10, but I think he can operate there. Obviously, this is prefaced by the fact that if we make a signing in that Asensio mould or that area of the pitch, then you're not going to see Tielemans play much in that position. However, I wouldn't be dead set against us doing it from time to time.
The only way I could see this happening on a consistent basis is if we sign a right winger. Reason being is you put Tielemans in the 10, not averse to it. Then you have potentially times you're going to be playing McGinn as that right winger. And then you've got Jacob Ramsey as that on that left-hand side. Let's say, God forbid, the worst happens and we're 5 games of the year without Morgan Rogers. And you've got Tielemans at 10, you've got McGinn at right wing, and you've got Jacob Ramsey at left wing. I just don't think that's going to work. It will work, obviously, but, just teams go into a low block and I would be interested to see if we could do anything in that instance. Not that they're bad players, it's just the way that the teams would be able to defend against them. So I think it's kind of unwritten, really. If we get new forward players, I suppose mostly in the mold of another left winger, maybe another right winger, yes, I could see something like that happen. But predominantly this year, I want to see Morgan Rogers play down the middle. That's for me.
Do you think Tielemans works better tactically in the 10 if he can kind of sit and play threaded passes to runners that have gone behind, whereas a McGinn and a Ramsey wouldn't be that?
Yeah, well, I don't think he would play in the 10, so to say, as the traditional 10. I think he's going to be playing as an 8. He is going to be more withdrawn. He's going to come into that, I suppose. Remember when Unai Emery first came in and Emery Buendia was playing in that 10 position? But what he would do is he would drop back almost. And I remember a specific game we were playing Liverpool. Was it Liverpool? It was Liverpool, and Fabinho was in at defensive midfield, and Buendia dropped onto Fabinho and moved him around the park so that one of the centre halves had to come out and attack that space where we needed it, and by moving deeper, it allowed our wide players to cut inside more. So there was tactical differences from that point of view, and I think that's probably how I would see him play. I think naturally he's going to want to get more involved in the ball. So the negatives of playing him there full time in a traditional 10 role like we saw Asensio and everything is you're not going to get him touches of the ball, and therefore, we're going to be almost hamstring our most productive player of last year, the player who played the most through balls last year, the most defense-splitting passes last year in the whole league. We're going to be kind of cutting his input in the game, probably maybe even by half. So I'm averse to playing him at 10 unless I absolutely have to.
Absolutely fair enough, Neil. Thank you. The next one is from Stephen. Stephen says, if finances are so much of an issue, why are Villa not maximising pre-season and hosting at least one home game at Villa Park? Surely that could be a decent earner. Now, I don't know this, but I'm sure in previous summers, Villa have requested that not to have a home pre-season friendly, or to have one maybe. I think there was one season where the final one, so like this year's Marseille Villarreal double header, that was at Villa Park. I can't remember who the opponent was. I'm sure that might not even been under Emery. I might be thinking a little bit further before that. But because of changes to the stadium or the pitch, or for whatever reason, it's that we don't want a home game, and that's often bled into the first game of the season when Villa have requested to be away on the first day as well. So I don't know whether it's the same this year, but obviously with the Kendrick Lamar gigs, Black Sabbath stuff, stuff's been happening at Villa Park, the North Stand. Maybe that just means that Villa aren't able to play at home, would be my kind of putting two and two together and maybe coming out with 5, but hopefully coming out with 4.
I'm on the exact same train as you. The club are developing
train.
like there's it's all aboard. Yeah, there's more seats going in. So there's obviously going to be work there. There's going to be more hospitality upgrades. There's going to be upgrades to the concourse. Also, they're building the warehouse as it is. So like the North Stand car park, I would imagine currently is more or less a building site in a lot of areas. They're obviously as well still going ahead with the phase 2 of the refurbishment of the club shop. So there's quite a lot of building work going on. So I absolutely agree with this person that let us get back to the time when we can hold at least 2 home games in pre-season, drop the ticket prices, get kids in there, get kids to be able to see the team. Like we saw the success of the under-18s team last year, when there was almost a full stand in Villa Park with kids there because they're able to go for a quid. I'm not saying you go that low, but you get kids in there. If kids can't see the team, then they can't be the next group of fans. I'm a big believer in that. Mm-hmm. Conversely, I think clubs will, but this is 2025 capitalistic football. I think conversely, what clubs will do is clubs are going to be going abroad for longer, more, because it is, they get paid to be there. It's invitational stuff, and you would imagine that growing the fan base as well abroad is something that they're going to want to do. But I really don't want any club, and not just Aston Villa, and I think Villa are doing a pretty good job of bringing the homegrown fans, if you want to call them, into back into the stadium again in a lot of ways, albeit ticket prices being the way that they are. I completely understand that capitalistic football is gonna trump anything else here. But to answer the question, I think it's just more so just building work, and I want to get as much done in the off season as they possibly can.
I know the US tour that Villa are doing this year isn't like the Premier League invitation thing that we did a couple of years ago with, I think, Newcastle were there and Brentford, was it? Off the top of my head, Fulham, those guys. I wonder what the difference is from a revenue perspective for the club for those kind of things, as opposed to 2 home friendlies. Because the idea, you might get 20,000 there, whatever, buying food and drinks and shirts and stuff, but going to an actual tour and opening yourself up to different markets might be worth more to the club anyway.
And also, it's going to be interesting, and look, you're not going to see them until April of next year, or maybe even the year after, is how much did all those concerts bring in? Are they bringing in more than a friendly would, where you have maybe 25,000 at a friendly?
Yeah.
30,000 at a friendly. I would say they would absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Like the amount of money dropped at that Black Sabbath gig, and also, like the amount of exposure that Black Sabbath gig gave, because like I had mates in the States and everything like that, and nothing to do with Villa or whatever, and they were getting on to me going, "Oh my God, is that the football stadium of the team you support in Birmingham?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it." "Oh, that's amazing." And was that the flag that Geezer Butler was holding up? The fact that it's streamed live, that it got all this great traction on the internet as well. Yeah, look, I suppose there's some things that you'll be able to put in the bottom of a balance sheet, and there's some things that you won't be able to put in the bottom of the balance sheet for years to come because of the exposure that you get. But it's a case of weighing the two of those up.
Yeah, really interesting. This next question also has no name. Neil, do you want to suggest who this one's come from?
Richie.
Richie has asked about Douglas Luiz. We spoke about him a little bit last week. He says, Douglas Luiz, in Portuguese, said on his Twitch stream a few weeks ago, when asked why he left Villa, simply answered, in rough translation, no novo contrato. No new contract.
Did anybody else just think that Dan said Harry Potter incantation there? Just the way you said it. No novo contrato.
Yeah, smoke coming up from behind, didn't he? No new contract, seemingly meaning Villa didn't offer him a deal. He also said on Instagram after his last game that he couldn't last Villa game, he couldn't wait to be back playing at Villa Park. Seeing how fond he is of Villa, would you be okay with selling Tielemans for 40 to 50 million and bringing Luiz back on a cheaper deal? I think it's fair to say we missed a lot of what he brought to the team. Before you answer that, Neil, just on the contract thing, I seem to remember, unless I'm getting my players mixed up, that there was some kind of contract offer on the table to Luiz and he just didn't want to sign it. So no novo contrato may not be that there wasn't no new contract presented. It was just no new contract that he liked. He didn't agree with the terms of being offered potentially. Selling Tielemans for 40 or 50 and swapping him back for Luiz is a huge risk, I think, after the season that Luiz has just had, despite him obviously being a talented player. But I think Tielemans is better. And I'd want more than 40 to 50 million for him as well.
So here we go. Let's go back to the first question, playing Tielemans in the 10. Now you could tempt me playing Tielemans in the 10 every week if we had Douglas Luiz back in the team. But then what happens?
That's different. Yeah.
So where my mind is kind of going at the moment is that this is a big, and it's a big year for that midfield. For two reasons. I don't mean it's a big year as in there's a gun to anybody's head there that they have to perform. This will be one of the first, and I know we've. So there, I don't expect there to be much movement within that kind of the rotation of midfielders we have for the sixes position. So like Onana is going to get game time. He's going to have a full preseason under his belt. Boubacar is going to have a full preseason under his belt, and Tielemans is going to have a full preseason under his belt. I just don't know whether the club actually sees any urgency to bring another person into that room. Like in previous years, you've had Boubacar Kamara working his way back through fitness. We've sold Douglas Luiz. The year previous to that, we brought in Yuri Tielemans into that equation. We're like, what's going to happen here? You know, what's the dynamic of that midfield? I'm trying to think, did we lose somebody else from the midfield in that year as well? I can't quite remember. Then Donker wasn't working out. He was kind of taking up a space in there. We were trying to make him work for a couple of years, and it didn't work. This year, I think the stability of that room is by chemistry and by working together and having full preseasons together. I think I'm of the opinion that it should elevate that room from a slappiness point of view. That there won't be like from the how they work in transitions, how their shape works and stuff like that. That we will see less holes in there. Not that there was many, but we'll see less because we won't have the revolving door of people there. So to go back to there, I would bring Douglas Luiz in, but it would be a compliment to that room. And I just don't think there's room to complement that room in there unless, and to be honest with you, if you were asking me which player would leave from that room currently, I don't know. I'd probably say Onana. Like, because you have to think about it when you weigh it all up, you know, yes, everyone say, yeah, Barkley, sell him for 4 or 5 million or whatever. Yeah, but Barkley won't be on the wages that Douglas Luiz is going to be on. And then obviously you're paying 40, 50 million. By all means, if there was a way to do it, bring him in. Yeah, and have him in that rotation. That way we could almost have two brilliant partnerships. You could have Dougie and Onana. You could have Tielemans and Kamara, and then they would work seamlessly together. But currently at the moment, I think we're going to have to cut our cloth accordingly. And I don't want to lose Tielemans to bring back Douglas Luiz.
No,
because of how much of a stamp on our identity of a team last year that Tielemans was.
It would be silly money to suggest selling your player of the season and the player of the season by some distance. You know, 100 million, obviously take it. You've got to think about it. 40 to 50, the disruption that could cause, it isn't worth changing a position of the pitch that isn't a problem at the moment for me.
I do like Douglas Luiz. I would like to have him back in a Villa shirt. I just think we have to think under the constraints. And I think you're robbing Peter to pay Paul with the 40 million for Tielemans to then go and spend arguably 30, 40 of it back on Douglas Luiz again, you know.
Yeah. Damo says, hi lads, loving the show as always. In terms of transfers, Villa are clearly looking at just tweaking rather than an overhaul. Do you think the hierarchy believe that there is still maybe 10% more to come from the current crop with a couple of additions? I think this is really interesting because I think this is why we probably are all kind of itching for a bit of transfer business, that we all feel like maybe I'm speaking for other people here. I feel like there's a core group of this squad that probably have kind of, we've wrung every drop of the orange. But did you say that actually? Is that your phrase? The kind of every squeeze of the orange juice or something? But like, I feel like we've got...
worth the squeeze I've used before.
Yeah, something like that.
Transfers, like, I don't know what I bring back because the juice ain't worth the squeeze.
But, but I feel like we've probably got the maximum amount of a few players, and that's why we feel like, we can tweak here, we can tweak there. So I think there's a few more players that absolutely can kind of elevate their levels again, absolutely. And it's those players you want to build around. But I think there's probably an element of the group now where Emery probably feels like, well, actually, I can tweak this position and move this player around, and that's not going to be the massive kind of open heart surgery on the squad that we think it will be. It will be kind of 2 or 3 rather than 6 or 7. That's
I once again, Dan, I think exactly the same. I think that it will be tweaks this year. Like we have to remember, the absolute doldrums we were in at the centre half position for easily 10 games. Like, I think what was I'm open to correction this. There was like 8 games in a row where we had different centre half partnerships.
Yeah,
I think it could have even been more, and it was at a crucial time of the year. So it was dire for a period of time at the centre half position, and then we had injuries throughout the course of the year. We couldn't get Onana into the team as much as we wanted with injuries, and And it was really at the turn of the year then that things started to solidify. We started to get fit again. And then you saw the upturn in the team. Yes, we're not going to have Asensio and Rashford there, but I would imagine that we're going to bring 2 players in their position. So that's where I think the tweaking is. And once again, we have to remember what Unai Emery said. Unai Emery was asked the last day of the season something about transfers, and he goes, "I would just love to have every single player I have here back." So he was very happy with the squad at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think if you go into the season with the squad that we've got now, with a couple of, obviously we've lost Rashford and Asensio, kind of, even though we didn't start last year with them, so they need replacing because of Buendia, for example, won't come back and play either. I think you look at right back, you look at right centre back, you look at a forward, maybe a right winger, left winger, number 10, whatever it is, some kind of creative player. If you kept everybody else, if you kept Tielemans, kept Kamara, Konsa, Torres, Martinez, etc., that'd be enough. That'd be a great squad to work with. You will see more surgery done to Villa if those players leave.
And the off-season is critical. It really is critical. We will see all the players back today. We will see we will see Walsall this week in 2 days' time. We will see Hansa Rostock on Saturday. I'll see it through bleary hungover eyes, but still, I will still see it because I'm going to see Deck Pearson Friday night with a load of other, with nice. Paddy and a load of other Villa fans. Yeah. So we're all going in to see him, and it'll be an interesting team sheet tantrum that day if I can still speak, because I'm going out again that night, again to another gig. But
rock and roll.
Yeah, so like we would this week is going to be, there's going to be a lot of formation, I suppose, of what the rest of the off season holds from this week. Then we fly out to the States, if I'm not mistaken. Then after
next
that,
Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. Yeah.
Next Tuesday or Wednesday. So realistically, I wouldn't be surprised. Keeper's probably going to come in today or tomorrow. I would say we would get notice of that. Never would have expected him to play anyway on Wednesday, so you're probably going to see somebody like Joe Gauchi in there. You'll probably see a lot of the kids in there as well. We always tend to do that versus Walsall. Maybe we might start to hear sniffs of 1 or 2 other players. We've always said, they want to get him on the plane to get him to the States. In 2025, what's like, there's, for the money that goes around in football, previously, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that would be the case. You want to maximize the amount of people you have on the one flight that you've chartered. How they can fly planes back and forth like 5 times a day if they need to.
Well, it with Derby, didn't we, last year? Like the squad was already out there, and then Derby signed. The year before now. Wow. Time flies. And it was like he was pictured in signing his contract in the hotel that the team were at. So if they don't kind of make it on the official flight out from Bodymore next Wednesday or whenever it is, they'll just join up with the squad on the Friday or whatever. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like all I have to do is watch the British and Irish Lions rugby team at the moment. Like every single day, there's a new fella packing his bags and we're jumping down there. And I think they've got bones of 44 odd people down there at the moment. Like travel is no barrier to signing players or anything at the moment. So in prior years, you would say, I'd want everybody on the flight. We go to the States now. Probably doesn't matter because he's probably on, like a lot of teams are on the same type of strength and conditioning kind of off-season maintenance work and everything. So then when they'll still be able to hit the ground running from that point of view. And it's not like the day where if somebody's been drinking 8 pints a day for the last 4 weeks, and he comes back and he's got about 4 stone that he needs to shift before he goes in centre half. So I would say that that we might start to hear sniffs and rumours over the next few days. But again, I'm not expecting a massive acceleration of signings to come. I expect the goalkeeper in. I expect us to start hearing about potential outs this week because they would probably want people not on the plane.
I was exactly thinking the same thing,
as opposed to the people who want out, as opposed to the people who want in, because it serves the club to bring a kid on that than it does to bring somebody that's probably going to have to leave halfway through. So I put it for instance sake here. Let's say Leon Bailey, they might want to expedite that between now and next Tuesday to get that done if he is somebody that is going to leave. And then maybe they might bring Ben Bragio, they might bring Cole Brannigan, they might bring somebody like that on the team, or George Hemmings or someone like that.
Spoke about an overhaul. This is from the Groover. I didn't make that one up. That is real. If you had 50 million to spend on a single player in the team, which would it be? Which position, and who's the perfect player for it? Now, I don't think we'll see this. I don't think we'll see Villa drop 50 million on one individual. But if we did, and it doesn't depend on outgoings, it has to be a wide player for me, a forward. 50 million on a right back is quite a lot, isn't it?
not a chance. Look, I've come to the viewpoint that we may not see another right back in. I think we might see centre half in. Unless we move Jelkovic.
Yeah.
We're 3 deep there.
Yeah, I'd be
And
taking
this
that as
time
read that
last
he
year,
would
everyone was like, "Yeah, the Djokovic is going to be in instead of cash after 6 months." Didn't happen. And I'm not, look, this isn't pro cash or anything. I'm saying, guys, there's, unless somebody goes out there, we don't have the squad space. So, and I'm saying someone goes out on loan, yes, bring someone in. Somebody goes out full time, bring somebody in. Yes, but I like what kind of squad building do you do when you've got three three right backs there? Then you go in and send a centre half to play at right back as well. You know, you're wasting a squad space. But
completely agree.
Yeah. Like they have, one of those has to go out, or Matty Cash needs to be sold. One or the other for a right back to happen, to come in. And I know there was rumours that AC Milan were coming in for Matty Cash at some stage. They don't seem to be too happy with the right back situation. AC Milan let go of David Calabria. Oh, I'd definitely be having a sniff off that if I could. But for 50 million, it would have to be. You spend your money to score goals. That's my view on it. 50 million would have to be a striker or a winger. It'd have to be a damn good one at that.
And if it was based on outgoings and Martinez did go, I'd feel comfortable replacing him if I could spend 50 million on a goalkeeper as well. That would be like, I mean, there's no surefire way that just because you spend 50 million, they're going to be successful. But you give yourself a good chance if you're spending 50 million on Emi Martinez's replacement. Like, that must be decent. However, if it was like you can kind of keep what you've got, you're right, a forward, a striker, a right winger, a left winger, someone who's going to score and create goals is absolutely what you kind of spend that money on. This is really interesting from Liam, and I'm glad that he sent it in because it's a good talking point, but I think it's wrong. I don't mean that in a nasty way, and you might disagree. Liam says, "Hello boys, love the work and really like the mailbag. I'd prefer to ask a question in private as I don't fancy getting torn to shreds on social media. My question, apologies if it's a silly one, could a player negotiate a new contract on less money to help the club out? Emi Martinez apparently loves the club and everything that comes with it, but his own contract seems to be the main reason he has to leave, or so we're led to believe. In theory, if they all accepted a 10 or 15% cut in wages, could that bring us back in line to where the silly rules want us to be? Ideally, yes. And probably very rarely, sometimes yes, kind of an aging player that maybe feels like this is their final contract would accept some kind of reduced terms. Was there talk about Tyrone Mings maybe dropping his wages? Is that just
I heard that too.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's
what
true
happened.
or not.
Well, I suppose, put it this way, would you prefer then, if I was to say to you, you have job security, currently your contract is up in a year's time, and you're on this amount, you're on, let's just say 20k a week, or would, if I was to give you a 5-year contract and have you on 15k a week, and that 5-year contract is rock solid, you know, job security for an aging player, so that like there's a famous American baseball player. I cannot remember his name. I knew this yesterday, and it's just floated out of my mind. And apparently,
nothing about baseball, so I'm not going to help you.
But this guy's agent did a massive deal, and instead of getting all the money up front, he split it so that he was getting like 1.18 million every single year for like 40 years. And the security that gave him was incredible. So look that up. You guys look at that. It's actually a day that some people actually celebrate in the States, as in, like, you know, you'd see if you're in any American sports chats or anything like that, people will always reference it. I can't remember your man's name, but it's considered one of the best deals in baseball. But so what I'm getting at here is
Vanilla.
That could be it, yeah.
What a cracking name. The 1 million 40 years refers to Bobby Bonilla's deferred contract with the New York Mets, where he received approximately 1.19 million each year on July 1st,
That's it.
even though he retired in 2001. The payment arrangement continues till 2035. Wow.
2035, yeah. See? So, like, no, I'm not. So, when you get to an older player, like, let's just say you get, let's just say with Tyrone Mings, this is why it makes sense to me. Tyrone Mings, 32 years of age. Tyrone Mings' contract was up at the end of next year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So let's say the club went, okay, what we'll do is we pack on another year for you. So you have the security of getting Premier League wages for another year. Mings ain't going to go to Saudi. He might go to the States. He's not going to get 80 to 100 million or 80 to 100 grand a week in the States. So maybe he's looking at it going, well, look, this is job security. So if I'm on 85 at the moment, the club knocked me down to 70, gives me another year. Maybe they convert some of it into a signing bonus that I get this year, or we can afford it.
Yeah.
That's going to be
definitely can happen.
There's jiggery pokery that can be done. Yeah. We don't know what happened to Tyrone Mings. It was just a rumor that was out there. You know, but it would elevate his legendary status.
Yeah, but I think the argument of why I said initially that I think it's wrong is that like somebody who's doing well, like a Yuri Tielemans or Morgan Rogers or a Martinez or a Konsa that have demand, I guess you could maybe argue that, you can stay at Villa, you were on 100 grand a week, but now you're on 80, but longer contract. Well, they'll think, I can move to another club and probably get 100 again or 120. And that's the reason for moving around, isn't it? Money.
And I wonder, like once again, going back to American sports, guaranteed money in contracts, like the wording of contracts would be very important there. Like, okay, even if I move to another club, you're still guaranteed to pay me for next year, for another year. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll take that.
Charlie says, is it totally unthinkable that aside from maybe a Martinez replacement, Villa might not sign anybody this summer? Look at last season, Liverpool and Newcastle made 0 major signings and still had 2 of the strongest campaigns in the league. Just because the transfer window is open does not mean you have to spend. Stability, chemistry, and backing the current squad can sometimes do more than a new face ever could. Again, I think it's a sound theory. You will see some additions though, but as we spoke about before, keeping that nucleus, if Villa can do that and keep a strong squad and drop 2 or 3 in there, that I think that'd be really strong. And if Villa sell 5, you're going to have to bring in your 2 or 3 and replace the 5, and then that is big change. But there is something to be said about having kind of recognising we've got something good here. Let's keep that together and let's keep that strong, as opposed to potentially kind of upsetting the apple cart.
We in that instance, we're an Ollie Watkins injury away from.
Yes, true.
From like literally being in the meme of your man sitting there going, everything is fine, and there's fire all around him. We really are. So the club have to do business in the front 4 positions. Yeah. It just has to be done. Whether they're big signings, whether they're filler signings, now that the Club World Cup is over as well, we have to bear that in mind. Now the Club World Cup is over as well, there's going to be some very good teams out there that have had players playing there that are now open to trading them. You just heard it last night, Paris Saint-Germain talking about Boraldo handed in a transfer request after the game last night. 21-year-old defender, 30 million, wants to leave to play full-time. He's only getting 20 games at PSG at the moment. I would imagine there's other players on that team as well. Like, give me a piece of Lee Kang-in if he's somebody that Unai Emery has looked at before. If he's available, give me a piece of that. Right winger, one of the best successful take-on rates, the best successful take-on rate in Europe last year. Give me him, please. So there is like the market is going to start to move now, because those teams are going to want to do business now. They've been dormant during the Club World Cup in the main, and they're also going to want to shift players off their books too, which other teams like Aston Villa will be looking to capitalize on. So now is when the market starts today.
I agree.
So I think we will see forward additions for sure. But I don't think we'll see multitude of additions to this squad in general. And I do agree with him about chemistry. I've been big on that over the last 2 weeks. That don't underestimate. Look at what Eddie Howe did with Newcastle. Don't underestimate what team chemistry can do. If Unai Emery can get a Jacob Murphy type character to emerge out of this squad and score 10 goals, Jacob Murphy is not a 10-goal Premier League winger. He's had a brilliant season because of the love, the trust, and the harmony that he was able to build within that squad. And Eddie Howe trusted him. Find one of those this year, Unai, and to be our Jacob Murphy.
Could that be Malen, Neil? Some player that has been talked about a lot, who didn't really do much last year, but the kind of narrative around him was he signed basically as a summer signing, but the deal is too good to turn down, so we're going to do it in January instead, probably.
That was
from Alex, long-time listener of the podcast, appreciate the mailbag. What position is Malen going to be utilised in this season? Is he seen by the club as a right winger or a backup to Ollie? This seems more of a Monchi signing rather than Emery. I'm a massive fan of Malen and believe we would be fine with him as our starting right winger. P.S. Please tell someone at the club to play Rodgers down the middle. I'll see what John can do. I think the question is he a right winger or a backup to Ollie? Classic answer. I think it's a bit of both.
And that's why I said, until we figure out what the story is with Malen, and I think even regardless of that, unless Pequeno Redmond is going to be your John Duran Bolter squad player this year, who improves beyond anything we could ever see. Remember, John Duran, I think, went his first 11 or 12 games, and admittedly, a lot of those were coming off the bench without doing much for Aston Villa.
True. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this year, we were like, whoa, Jesus, this guy's really good. At the end of last season, he was brilliant. He was really good. So can we have that jump in form from a young player? I doubt it. But who is going to be that backup? Is it Malen? Yes, Malen at this moment in time is the backup to Ollie Watkins. and potentially that right winger. But I think the club are going to bring in the right winger, and Malen becomes the rotational piece with Ollie Watkins. So that's and that's a bit of context to my previous answer as well. When I said we're an Ollie Watkins injury away, I obviously know Malen can play there, but then who plays right wing? Do we go back to playing John McGinn there? Do we go back to we suddenly look like December of last year Aston Villa very quickly if we don't add one or two striking options.
I think if there's a right wing addition, whoever that is, I know it's not going to be Madueke, but I say it was him. Madueke and Malen would compete for the right winger position. And when Ollie Watkins isn't available through suspension or injury, Malen plays up front, and then you've got those two wingers fighting it out. That's how we would like to play it. Malen and Bailey, if he was on the form of the season just gone, they're vying for that position. I think Malen will play a lot of minutes over the course of the season in different positions, and we're probably going into this campaign with largely little expectation on him. I think generally most people don't really know what to expect. However, if he's the kind of player that comes out of the end of next season with, he was actually solid, wasn't he, Malen? Like 12 goals, 7 assists, like really contributed into firing Villa into X competition or to win X silverware. I think that's the kind of maybe dark horse in the squad I would have at the moment of what is Malen. Is he going to be that kind of 20 goal contributions player, or is he going to be 5 and not really play much? And we go, oh, that didn't really work.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think the glass is very much 3/4 full on that one. I think the club expect him to have a better season this year. I think he was just a victim of the shuffle that happened. And when the guy who asked the question said, was it a Monchi signing over Nuno Emery signing? I know that they're probably not going to be 100,000,000% in lockstep with each other, but these guys have worked long enough together. I don't think anyone's going over the other person's head. I think like these two people are like skipping through the meadow holding hands. Like they're that best friend. They're really, really good friends, and really they work really well together. So I wouldn't think that anything is. I think that if Unai Emery was banging the table saying, "Not for me, do not sign this player," that there's nobody coming in the door. I would think 100%. That if there was trepidation to a certain level, I think that it would be dropped. So I think there must have been some sort of mutual want for this player at some stage.
Yeah,
could be wrong though. I'll wait for somebody's book in 4 years' time.
Final question for the show comes from Owen, who simply asks, do you think Ezri Konsa is England's best centre half? I don't know if he's the best, but he's definitely right up there in the top 2 or 3, I think.
I don't think he's the best, but I think he's better than some people that are going to get a lot more time. It's very difficult for me to talk about England football being an Irish guy. I will normally get the odd message going, of course you don't like it because you're Irish. I don't really care about international football. I support Aston Villa players.
To be honest.
Regardless of whatever team they play for. I think there's a couple of England centre halves that aren't as good as are made out to be. I think there's 1 or 2 England centre halves that potentially could move this off season for mega money that aren't worth that mega money. I think there's a lot of Harry Maguire-itis that goes on with English centre halves. So they're good players. Don't get me wrong, but when you look at the scouting Villa must have done for Ezri Konsa, 12 million from Brentford. Brentford fans said you're saying our 4th best centre half. Now, what we can see the projection of Ezri Konsa is now there's a lot to be said for scouting centre halves and seeing what they can grow into. My answer on it is I think he's probably England's.
Like he's definitely going to be in, providing he plays well this season. He's injured. He'll be in the World Cup squad.
100%.
If England use 5 centre halves in the World Cup, he will be one of the 5. So by definition, he's one of the 5th best.
Yeah.
But I would argue
he's probably the 3rd. Yeah, I think he's probably the 3rd. I don't think I would like. I don't think I see him. Like put it this way, John Stones, if he's fit, is probably going to start centre half for England. Then who else is going to start there? Mark Gray play there. Is there a massive difference? I know there are 2 different types of players, but like Mark Gray was one of the people I was talking about being potentially sold for 70-80 million.
I prefer Konsa.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it comes down to that's where I say the Harry Maguire-itis. Harry Maguire is worth the money that was spent on him when it was spent on him, but it's like a lot of people now see him as the butt of a joke. He's going to be in the England squad this year. I would imagine. 100%. I would say for 100% sure he's going to be in the England squad. 1 of 5 defenders. Answer the question. I'm going to say 3rd best centre half.
Just a kind of a spin-off Konsa thing while we're here. I know you just said then about signing him from Brentford. there was that tweet, wasn't there, about, oh, they're signing our fourth best centre-back for that amount, because it did the rounds recently, because it's 6 years to the day that he signed for Villa. I was just checking then while you were talking, his age, kind of expecting him to be maybe approaching 30. He's 28 in October.
28 in October, he's still only 27, yeah.
Joined Villa when he was 21. Like, it doesn't, you kind of, I don't know, it's because of the kind of player that he is and maybe the kind of level of maturity it feels that he has, but you almost feel like he was 25 when he signed for us. The fact that he was 21 and has been here such a long time, played so many games at a high level across different competitions, and he's still kind of like, in kind of classic football terms, approaching his peak age of this is where you're your best, 27, 28 is incredible, really.
Yeah, like we've had him for 6 years. He's 27. We could have him for another 6 years, and he's still only 6 months older than Tyrone Mings.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's exactly 6 months or whatever, but so we're essentially signing this guy now in and around the time we signed Tyrone Mings when we were in the championship. He was that age, So Tyrone Mings was 26, 27 when he was 25, 26 or whatever like that. So give or take 18 months, we're signing him at the same time. And think of how Tyrone Mings' game and the improvement to his ability happened as he moved up levels. So, and look, if Ezri Konsa scoring goals against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, like, it's, this guy has improved, and he's had to play between two different positions. That's the big thing for him. 27 going on 28. Centre half is his position. There is no moving him to right back from here on out. Centre half is his position. And
completely agree. Okay, Neil, we're going to call it a day there. Thank you very much for joining me for this edition of the Claret Blue Podcast Q&A. We'll be back at some point later this week when there are news items to talk about, whether that's incomings or outgoings. We've got a couple of things up our sleeve if nothing happens, because as we said before, we have to post something. I like that we've covered kind of a different range of topics. So, Neil, thank you very much for joining me. I'll leave the link to your channel for those that don't know in the podcast description. Thank you for watching along or listening to this episode of the Claret Blue Podcast, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.